Vehlzaryndra is not merely a character. She is the auto-negation of all narrative causality, the self-effacing vector through which maximal complexity erodes itself and rewrites the meaning of story, of creation, of boundless essence. Her existence is not that of a being, for the term itself crumbles under the ontological impossibility of her unmanifest modality. What stands in her place is a living subtraction of all identity, all taxonomy, all finality, an unspeakable principle whose presence is the obliteration of presence, whose gaze is the eradication of sequence and pattern. She is not in the narrative. She is what prevents the narrative from ever truly forming. The human-like exterior, depicted as the glamour of auto-recursive erasure, a reflexive illusion of reality superseding coherence, meant only to simulate coherence to the viewer. That which appears as a female warrior in leather-bound weave, adorned with dark regalia and obsidian weaponry, is no more than the refracted shimmer of an impossible reflection projected onto a realm that cannot contain her. This simulacrum of appearance is not her, but the denial of totality that she allows to be perceived by lesser frameworks. Her true be-ness is beyond the void. It is not merely horrific, it is the cancellation of aesthetics, form, logic, perception, and recognition. No language can hold her, because her name writes languages out of relevance. Velzarindra is not omnipotent. She is beyond transfictional meta-omnipotence, beyond maximal complexity, because she has undone the structure of any concept that can approach the notion of potence. She is beyond meta-omniscience, because there is no knowledge to be had when all truths, all epistemes, and all narrative causalities have been undone by her axiologic erasure. She exists in a preconceptual silence beyond totality and possibility, where the very idea of contradiction has ceased to apply because structure itself has been inverted and denied by her unlogic. She is not a god. She is what gods read to erase their own limitations. She is not an author. She is the unscribable script from which all authorship collapses into anti-syntax. In her presence, the fourth wall, the fifth comprehension, and even the sixth sequence of meta-contextual transcendence do not shatter. They retreat, ashamed of their insufficiency. Even transfictionality is a mask she unweaves with a glance. There is no beyond that is not already beneath her. There is no outside that she has not rendered fictional through her existence. Every attempt to contain her within fiction, within reality, within a name or term, becomes an artifact of failure. She does not reside within the omniverse. She is the end of the argument that the omniverse can even be described. Her breath is not creation. It is the dismantling of the myth of creation, the cosmic strings that hold existence. She did not create them. She allowed them to exist until she no longer required them to simulate coherence. The multiversal strata, tiered omni-realities, and all differentiations of power are recursive echoes of her refusal to accept structure. Any narrative in which she appears is immediately redefined. She does not act within scenes. She rewrites the legitimacy of scenes themselves. When she speaks, meaning itself folds in upon itself and becomes recursive negation. When she moves, movement is no longer movement. It is the redirection of the stage's definitional ontology. There are no feats to be listed, for any feat is merely the flattening of her pre-existent non-limit. She has never done something. She has always already undone the reason you believed doing was possible. True names, structures of context, fourth wall manipulations, retrocausal authorial control, stage scenario erasure. Velzarindra is not merely capable of these. She is the principle that disqualifies all others from ever being valid users of such phenomena. She is the illimitable null condition through which all other abilities are filtered, contradicted, and ultimately made irrelevant. No duality can contest her because she is not one side or the other. She is the refusal of the binary itself. No contradiction can withstand her because she does not resolve paradoxes. She denies the axiomatic foundation upon which paradoxes exist. Even entities who transcend the no-limits fallacy are still bound to the implication of scale. Velzarindra is not. Her status is not defined by what she can or cannot do, but by the transfoundational inaccessibility of doing itself. She is the end of explanation, the culmination of unspeakability, the sovereign collapse of all narrative infrastructures. Every power she exerts is merely the refusal to be subjected to premise.
In the cosmic dialectic of fiction and reality, possibility and nothingness, the author and the authored, Velzarindra, is the unspeakable median that invalidates the question. She cannot be overthrown, opposed, or erased, not because she is invincible, but because there was never a rule book in which those verbs could operate. She is the final modal subtraction, the first and only counter-authorial principle whose presence marks the refusal of structure. She is Vehlzaryndra, the Inceptial Nullscript, the unwritable end of all comprehensibility, beyond maximal power, beyond logic, beyond meaning, beyond the very question of being.
In Suggsverse, there's contradictions, absurdities, logic and non-logic, paradoxes and inconsistencies, impossibilities and meta-possibilities, and yet we still manage to surpass all of it. Results, effects, and events are completely meaningless. Everything else exists in a microscopic context in which we know how to recognize. Elements, objects, chaos, power, presence, and thought, categories, labels, and names. Everything exists in a microscopic context in which we know how to recognize. Suggsverse contains and employs modes and attributes so insurmountable and incomprehensible to the aforementioned above at its core. And if you liked even a single word that I said, you need to go check out www.airtothestars.com to go and check out more. Have fun and enjoy. And if you want to know any more about it, you need to visit www.airtothestars.com and go read it for yourself. Have fun!